So, the US economy has a greater than 50-50 chance of tipping into a recession in the next 2 years, according to a model tracked by JP Morgan. The probability of a US recession within 1 year is almost 28%, and it rises to more than 60% over the next 2 years. Over the next 3 years, the odds are higher than 80%. So, if that comes true, unfortunately, crypto will be no sanctuary for those looking for safe harbor. In times of recession, investors move away from speculative assets, not towards them. True, Bitcoin has never weathered a recession before, but I think it's much more likely that we'll see people move into fiat and traditional assets like precious metals than crypto assets. So unfortunately, at the present, I don't see a return to all-time highs in 2019 because Wall Street bought the dip. It just isn't an opportune time for them. That doesn't mean that 2019 will be insignificant, however. I think we'll make measured, real progress in the face of adversity, and really find our voice again. STOs, regulation, and global adoption all ramping up will certainly help our cause. And I think we're well past the state of hitting the panic button. Instead, crypto has hit the restart button, and now is an exciting time to see where we'll go from here. But in the meantime, especially if you're not 100% crypto, let's have a candid conversation about what you can do right now to approach any upcoming downturn with a degree of certainty and preserve your long-term goals. After all, getting rich and staying rich are two sides of the same coin. Both are dependent on your ability to anticipate the future and act accordingly. So let's do just that. Welcome to ReadySetCrypto. This is your brain on blockchain. Alright, so jumping into things, I'm going to go sequentially through 9 steps that you can apply, and I've structured them to my general audience, that being a 30-year-old male. If some of these steps don't apply to you, I mean, that's cool. Hopefully you can still learn something and you can pass it along to someone else. Of course, I'm no financial advisor. Everything discussed here is simply for entertainment purposes, and your finances are your own business. Cool? Cool. Alright, kicking things off, let's address debt. It's the elephant in the room, the veritable gorilla that always seems to sneak up on people. And look, debt is a topic that people always seem uncomfortable discussing. It's like a taboo thing. I get it. It's not fun to admit that you're tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt, or you have 6 figures of student loans, or you took out a $100,000 loan to buy Bitcoin in January, or you scammed a ton of people with Udemy courses and bought a Tesla, and now people are flagging your videos while you claim George Soros is to blame. All totally relatable circumstances, I totally get it. And so really, there's no secret to debt. It's a ball and chain, and unfortunately you can't wave a wand to make it go away. But there's some simple ways you can make it suck less. First, I think one of the best things you can do for yourself is understand debt repayment methods and how you can tactically pay off money owed. The two most popular are Avalanche and Snowball. With the Avalanche debt repayment method, you will first make the minimum payments on all your debts. You'll then focus on tackling the debt with the highest interest rate, paying the minimum payment plus extra payments each month. After you've crushed the first one, you then take the money you would use to pay off that debt and move on to the debt with the next highest interest rate. Contrary to that, with the Snowball debt repayment method, you will also make the minimum payments on all your debts. But there are 2 major differences between the Snowball and Avalanche repayment methods. First, instead of focusing on interest, you make the payments based on your balances. Second, instead of first paying off the debt with the highest interest rate, you start with the one with the lowest balance. So generally, unless you need the gratification for eliminating loans, I think Avalanche is better for most people because you'll pay less in interest overall, which can be a lot depending on the size of the loans and the fee percentages. If your debt is student loans, hello to my fellow millennials, then check out askpillar.com to see if they can't recommend a better approach for your repayment. And Sophie.com seems to be the best place for refinancing your loans. I'm not an affiliate for anything mentioned in this video. I just like sharing good resources that can genuinely help people. Speaking of, I'll also link the Federal Guide to Repaying Student Loans because I think they did a pretty good job of making the information accessible. So moving on, the second step to preparing for a recession is to have an emergency fund. The statistics of people's individual savings is pretty shocking. I mean, 66 million Americans have no emergency savings. Additionally, about 40% of adults said they would not be able to cover a $400 unexpected expense. So an emergency fund is exactly what it sounds like: liquid cash to help you through unexpected expenses. For most people, 3 to 6 months of expenses is good. A larger emergency fund, say 9 to 12 months, may be warranted if your income is variable or uncertain. Now I know, that kind of safety cushion is a fantasy for families and individuals living paycheck to paycheck, or for individuals who have areas where money is needed more urgently, like credit card debt. But it's crucial to have a cushion of some kind in case of emergency, medical or otherwise, especially in an economic downturn. And now, the other question I get is, what do I do with this emergency fund? And look, it's 100% okay to keep your entire emergency fund in checking, or a combination of checking and savings, or a money market account, so you're not losing value to inflation. But if the idea of low interest rates is too much to bear, you could consider a third tier of I-bonds or laddered CDs for emergencies that exceed 3 to 6 months of expenses. Just for the love of Satoshi, do not invest your emergency fund in crypto. Moving along, the third step is finding ways to cut down on your expenses. Now, it sounds simple, but in reality, it's no fun. Look, I'm not about to go all David Ramsey on you and say that you should cut up your credit cards, but I am advocating you, at the very minimum, have a budget and stick to it. I'm more of a sensible spending kind of guy, and I really relate with Mr. Money Mustache in approaching the problem of lifestyle creep. Quite simply, if you want to be on top of your finances, your debt, and your retirement, then consider making a conscious effort to keep your lifestyle in check. Stop falling into the trap of keeping up with everyone else, because everyone else is going into debt to maintain a lifestyle they can't afford. The basic truth that I've found is that the more people like to flash symbols of wealth, the more insecure and in debt they are. So yeah, there's a million different ways that you can approach this point, and that's kind of why I'm leaving it open, because it's tough for me to talk about it without looking at your specific situation. In general, downsizing, shacking up with roommates, selling or preventing unnecessary purchases, and again, having a budget and sticking to it, these are all great ideas. Check out software like You Need a Budget if that would help. The fourth step is to learn the note card. So what is that? Well, the note card is 9 simple personal finance tips from a guy named Harold Pollack. They are as follows. Max out your 401k or equivalent employee contribution. Buy inexpensive, well-diversified mutual funds such as Vanguard target funds. Never buy or sell an individual security. The person on the other side of the table knows more than you do about this stuff. Save 20% of your money. Pay your credit card balance in full every month. Maximize tax advantage savings vehicles like Roth, SEP, or 529 accounts. Pay attention to fees. Avoid actively managed funds. Make financial advisors commit to the fiduciary standard. And finally, promote social insurance programs to help people when things go wrong. Essentially, the note card is meant to represent all the financial wisdom you need to get a head start on investing, savings, retirement, and taxes. I think it's a neat idea, and the points he put down are really good. But the thing to take away is that it's his note card. It's not your note card. So my challenge to you is try fitting all the best tips and ideas that are specific to you on a single note card. And, like a budget, try sticking to it. Make it your 10 commandments or whatever you need to make it yours. Now, moving along, the fifth step is to harness your employability. No matter how much you like your job or how stable it seems, it's smart to have your resume ready. Definitely post it to LinkedIn and other job search sites, even if you're not currently looking for a job. Make sure it's up to date and that it looks professional. If code doesn't make you immediately run for the hills, I'd recommend checking out overleaf.com and looking at their gallery of resumes and CVs. It's free, and you can end up with a really professional looking document that can really help you go the extra mile. And law tech is about as easy as coding can be. If you have the time or desire to go a step further, pursue additional training or certifications in your field or another field that interests you. This might help you hang on to your job in the event of layoffs or land a new one if you do get cut. Look, it's easier to get training, plump up your savings and investments, and throw more money at debt when you're not in crisis mode. So there's no better time to get ready than now. No matter when the next recession or your personal crisis hits, you'll be grateful that you did. If you're looking to expand your skill set, I really recommend lynda.com, Brilliant, and Skillshare as sites that are really good for helping you learn things. And while they are typically paid services, what you can often do is go to your local library and ask them to give you a login for these websites. So you really shouldn't have to pay anything at all to access a lot of really good information. I think that's a nice segue into the next step, which is to get a side hustle. Now, when the economy as a whole takes a dive, individual businesses tend to suffer. And that can also easily lead the way to job loss. A good way to protect yourself, therefore, is to establish a solid side hustle while employed in a full-time capacity. This way, if you lose your primary source of income, you'll have a second stream to rely on as you look to get rehired. If nothing else, having that side gig will make it easier to build savings, which, as we talked about, is a crucial step in preparing for a recession. And who knows, maybe your side gig, your side hustle will become your primary hustle. If nothing else, learning how to form an LLC and do tax write-offs on things that you buy is one of those things that they don't teach you, but can really help you get ahead in life. And speaking personally, there's nothing more gratifying than starting a successful business. So compounding on that point, the 7th step is to get ready for opportunities. Now, saving isn't just for emergencies, it's also for opportunities. Right now, stocks, bonds, real estate, and seemingly everything else is at or nearing all-time highs across the globe, with the exception of crypto, of course. If there is a global recession, everything will be cheaper. Think about saving a little extra on top of your emergency fund so that you'll be able to take advantage of the fire sale when prices come down. Now, as the flip side to that, and sort of the 8th step, the biggest problem with nearly all stock picking strategies available to the general public is that they'll tell you what to buy, often incorrectly, but they won't say anything about when to sell. And so the 8th step is to learn the 3 pillars of investing strategy, those being index investing, modern portfolio theory, and rebalancing. Specifically, I want to look at the last one, rebalancing. So what does that mean? Well, simply put, once you've created a portfolio of index funds, carefully selected to your personal risk tolerance, for example 60-40, stocks and bonds, you monitor your asset allocation. If it ever falls out of line with your target, you rebalance it, meaning you sell assets that have grown too big and buy assets that have withered. So for example, if your target portfolio is 60% equities and 40% bonds, and equities have a good year, at the end of the year, you might be 65% equities and 35% bonds. So to restore your original asset allocation, you sell 5% of your equities and buy bonds. So why is this a good idea? Well, because it forces you to sell stuff that's done well, sell high, and buy stuff that's done poorly, buy low. And the best part is the rule removes all emotion from the decision. Is it above the target? Sell. Is it below target? Buy. Rebalancing tells you what to do as the market gyrates, and it always tells you to do the thing that makes you the most money in the stock market. Buy low, sell high. Now, the big caveat is that rebalancing only works when combined with the other 2 pillars of investing strategy, modern portfolio theory and index investing. This is because rebalancing as a strategy completely falls apart with individual equities. It's absolutely possible for individual equities to go to zero, but not for an index. Rebalancing would have told you to sell off your successful Bitcoin and buy BitConnect, which we all know would eventually turn out to be worthless. But rebalancing combined with index investing is a very powerful combination. This is simply because indexes can never go to zero. So rebalancing causes you to buy low and sell high into assets that have historically gone up and will continue to go up. And while there's plenty of evidence that rebalancing adds return to your portfolio over time, rebalancing's real value comes when the world's on fire. That's because when that happens, stock markets crash like crazy. Our most recent stock market crash in 2008 saw the S&P 500 drop by 50%. What do you do when that happens? Well, turns out rebalancing tells us what to do. As your allocation goes out of whack, you sell things that go up, bonds, and buy things that go down, stocks. So hopefully that makes sense. There's a lot of complexity to this, but this is really the secret key of having a successful investment portfolio. Now, if we want to talk a little bit more long-term, I think that's a nice segue into the next step, which is retirement hacking. Now, there isn't much I can talk about here without getting complicated. Honestly, this topic deserves its own video. But, especially in the US, there are great tools for maximizing your retirement accounts. Search for Mad Fientist and his article on the Mega Backdoor Roth, and also his piece on the HSA as the ultimate retirement account. Using these 2 together could potentially give you a significant amount more for your retirement, but obviously your mileage can and will vary. Now, the last step is to focus on yourself. I think in times of recession, bear markets, and just in general when the market is not acting as we hope, it can be easy to lose sight of what matters. Look, money comes and goes, and especially in crypto, we understand that very well. But nothing is worth more than your mental health and happiness. You need to find ways to center yourself, find new hobbies, meet new people, whatever it takes to get you out of a funk. You can't let this stuff beat you. You will get through this, and you'll be stronger as a result. When it comes down to it, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. So hopefully after watching this video, you're a little bit more prepared for whatever 2019 is going to throw at us. Take care, and we'll get through this together. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.